Greetings. We're gonna Graybox an urban streetscape, or at least get started on the very beginning of one in Unreal Engine 5. This is Unreal Engine 5.4.4. This is work we're going to be doing for the Oculus, or excuse me, Meta Quest 2. We're using the VR template map, so if you have Unreal Engine installed and you have the VR template map up and running, you're in good shape. You get the VR template map by going to the games setting when you create a new project and then pick VR. And I included starter content, so I've got starter content in here, and you can see the starter content is down in here. If you're working from another VR templated project that already has some changes and stuff in it, that's no problem. This is going to be all new stuff. It won't mess with anything, I don't think, too much for your project. One thing you'll notice is this color. I made a couple slight changes just messing around. I wanted to share those. And because what we're going to make is an evening sky with the sun setting in the west. So go ahead and go to your Sky Sphere PC2. That's Sky Sphere PC2. If you can't find it, you can always type in the search up here, Sky, and you'll see Skylight PC2 and Sky Sphere PC2. Go ahead and select that. And this is the outliner in Unreal Engine. So when I say outliner, I mean this stuff up here. This is your details panel. This is the details of the thing you've selected in the outliner. This is your content browser here, down here. And I call this the viewport of your Unreal Engine. Okay, so we're going to make an evening sky, and I've done a couple changes, like I said already. Let me just close this out, or kill this search, and so you can see everything in here. This is Sky Sphere PC2, and a couple things that you're going to want to check, and this is just for fun, but I'll explain why I'm doing it here in a minute. We have colors determined by sun position. That may already be checked for you, so that's fine. Go to sun brightness, and let's go ahead and set that to 1.0. That is 1.0. Cloud speed. We're going to have some clouds, which will be kind of fun. We'll set and they'll be moving, a little quicker than normal. We'll call that 5.0. Cloud opacity will be 0.8. I like 0.8 because it shows the clouds, but also shows the sun sort of peeking right behind it. And star brightness, we'll just set to 0.1. It'll be pretty much a daytime setting. Now, the critical thing is going and setting your sun height. Set your sun height to 0.0 or just 0. That's going to set it right on the horizon line, and I'll show you what that looks like. Now, again, this is just the standard VR template. The only thing I've done is removed the back wall. And so if you back out of your VR template, you'll have a back wall right here. Boop. But I just hit the delete key on that. So for you, your back wall, I think, is maybe wall 7. I forget which one it is, but there should be a wall right here. Just go ahead and click on it, delete it. Again, if you already have a bunch of floor and stuff out here, that's great. We'll just work with what you have. Okay, so let me fly around so you can see, or just turn around so you can see what that looks like. And so I'm going to hold the right mouse button down, and I am going to rotate my mouse, and you can see now we've got a little sun right here for our sunset. So we're going to call this west because the sun sets in the west. We need a common way to talk about directions in level design. We need a common way to talk about level directions in this video. So we're going to use what we use IRL in real life. The sun, for all humans and animals on Earth, the sun sets generally in the west. Now, if you live on the equator, it really sets in the west, but for us, it's good enough. We'll call this the west. So if this is the west, if we're pointed west, then north is going to be to my right, and south is going to be to my left. This also means, right, that when our player spawns right now, which is this blue arrow here, when they spawn facing east. So if I say west, I mean over there somewhere. Sorry, if I say west, I mean over here somewhere where the sun is. If I say northwest, I mean over here somewhere, right? So again, we're facing east, west is behind us, the sun is behind us setting, and northwest is that way, and north is that way. And you'll see why I'm spending time on this later, because I'm going to talk about direction, quite a bit. We're talking about level design. So let's talk about scale and Unreal units and measuring things, because in level design, that's important. Unreal Engine measures things in Unreal units. UUs. An Unreal Engine unit, a UU, is a centimeter, and I'll show you what that means. So let's go ahead and take a look at this cube, for example. This cube, its scale is 1 by 1 by 1. That means it's 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. And it's important to think about this, so let's say this out loud. 1.0 right here is not 1 unit, it's 100 units. And that throws people off. So if you do this and have 2 extra zeros, it's easier to remember, but they cut one of the zeros off. So anyway, when you see 1, it means 1 meter or 100 units, or, the metric system, 100 centimeters. The metric system is kind of magic. You just move the decimal place and everything makes sense. So if you wanted to make this cube 101 centimeters, so 1 extra centimeter, it would be 1.01, 1.01, 1.01. That is a 101 centimeter cube. So just always think about the decimal place being over 2 places for the most part. When we get into modeling in Unreal Engine, there'll be some changes. But really, anytime you see anything in scale here, for something that's already been measured out in units, think centimeters and think meters. This is not always true, and we'll see examples why it's not always true. But when we're talking about these very basic building blocks for grayboxing, it's a pretty good way to think about it. Scale's a little funky, right? Well, we'll talk about scale later. It's fine. Okay. Okay, so another thing, if you're new to 3D and you're new to Unreal Engine, you're new to things like Blender, R, G, B, red, green, blue. R is your x-axis. That is this axis here, this red axis. You can also see it right here in the gizmo, a little widget over here. And then Y is your green axis. It goes this way. And Z is up in Unreal Engine. Z isn't always up in various 3D programs. Sometimes these are different, but for our purposes, Z is up and down. Red is R, goes back, and Y is green. And if you know the Jackson 5 song, ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3, I think RGB, easy as X, Y, Z. So R is always X, Y is always green, B is always blue. And that's pretty much true in all applications. Okay. Okay, so we're going to lay out, whoops, I made a thing, I squashed it. Okay, we're going to make a city block. And when you start to make a city block, often a new level designer will kind of lose their mind and forget to kind of think about, well, what actually is a city block? Like, how big should my buildings be? What is a block size? What are lots on the block? That kind of thing. And it's really useful to think about urban planning and to kind of let you understand, right, that the world has already been kind of figured out in this way. And I'll show you an example of that. I am going to open up a really great document by the city of Chicago in the United States called the Street and Site Plan Design Standards. And this is the city of Chicago was a very early city in the United States that was laid out on a grid system. And so the city of Chicago has a whole system that kind of defines the sizes of things, and this was part of a thing called the Burnham Plan, and this was done in the 1800s. Yes. So when much of the city was originally surveyed in the 1800s and 1900s, a typical surveyor's chain was 66 feet long, so a typical block was 10 chains long. They talk about, this is a fascinating document. They talk all about like why things are the shape and length and size that they are. It's really cool. But what we're going to do is get into certain things in our level that are going to be meaningful to you, and they're meaningful to the city of Chicago. One thing we're going to talk about here is the parkway. The parkway is this gap between someone's property line, their front yard, and the curb. And often what exists in the parkway is a sidewalk, and then like a planter, and then the curb itself. And then this thing they call here the carriage walk, which is like about a foot wide. Carriage walk is really important. It's important because it used to be back in the day where if you were in your horse-drawn carriage here, this was room for you to step down off the carriage without getting plowed by people on the sidewalk. It's also really important for people who are in wheelchairs because their ramp often goes right here on the carriage walk. But it's useful for everybody. It's useful for you when you open your car door, right? That way you're not smacking the planter with your car door. The carriage walk is an important part of urban design, and it's going to be in our level design as well. It's also, in level design, you want to map to what urban design does to make your level feel realistic if you're trying to make a realistic level, that is. Okay, so I think of, parkway, right? You've heard of this maybe used for streets, but a parkway, one way to think about it is it's sort of like a mini park. It's like got green space and stuff, so I think of a parkway as being a small park. Like I said, so this parkway, let me go to the next page, actually. That'll help you see it. Okay, so this is the width of a urban street in Chicago and also the parkway, and we'll talk about some of the sizing here. So a Chicago city block is, before we go into city blocks, we'll go into roadways first. Okay, so the curb right here is half a foot. And then the carriage walk is right here, and the carriage walk is between 0, there's not one, and 2.5 feet. We're going to call ours 2 feet just to make our life easy. And then there's 4 feet here. Oh, yeah, sorry. So here's the carriage walk right here. This is the room for planters. That's called the parkway landscape area. That's 4 feet wide. And then your sidewalk is 6 feet wide. And then there's this 1 foot right here called the right-of-way offset. And the right-of-way offset is where construction workers working on the sidewalk or planters or whatever have like room to exist and kind of room to put their stuff. Because if you have a fenced-in property line, your fence is going to be right up in here. And so they designated 1 foot for workers to be able to do stuff, and that is called the right-of-way offset. And so just to recap, right-of-way offset is 1 foot. The sidewalk is 6 feet. The parkway landscape area is 4 feet. The carriage walk is between 0 to 2.5 feet. We're going to call ours 2 feet. And then the little curb itself is half a foot. Apologies if you're not in the United States. We'll switch all this into metric a little bit. And then the road width is 20 feet wide from here to here. And there's a parking lane that's 7 feet over here and a parking lane that's 7 feet over here. Of course, if you've ever been in Chicago, the width of this varies quite a bit. But the goal is to have it, for a 2-lane road, is to have it be 20 plus 7 plus 7. That is a road, and it's a great place to start thinking about your level design. Like, what are your roads and stuff going to look like and feel like, and what are your sidewalks going to look like and feel like? Okay, a Chicago city block. Let's see if I can find it. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, this is more sidewalks and stuff. This, I'll just talk about it. So a Chicago city block is is 100 meters by 200 meters. So in Unreal units, right, that's going to be 100 units by 200 units. So we're going to make a cube, but it's going to be a very flat cube, very flattened cube. That's 100 meters by 200 meters to sort of make the shape of our city block. And we're going to use that as a reference. Or in 2D design world, you might call it like your artboard or something. I like having reference shapes in my 3D designs because it's a good way to just kind of imagine how a space is going to be before you have to like make it look good. So let's go ahead and make ourselves a block and make it the right size. So let's zoom out and let's go ahead and just grab this floor tile. And let's duplicate it. We're going to duplicate it by doing Command C, Command V. So now you see here I have floor 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to, let's see, pull it out this way. It's pretty big already. I'm just pulling it out so you can see it here. Let's actually pull it out this way and let me fly around and just make sure I'm lined up okay. I'm not. Boop, boop, boop. And I'm using WASD to fly around, and I'm holding the right mouse button down and moving it into place. It doesn't matter that much, but here we go. Okay. And so just a reminder, our player spawns in here, and these panels right now are half a meter thick. And our player walks around on them. So our terrain is going to be that same thing. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a reference layer kind of underneath the floor, kind of a subfloor, in order to do some planning. So let's go ahead and duplicate this again, Command C, Command V, and we have now another one. And so I'm going to pull it down here. There it is. And it snapped right under. So this is like our actual floor, and this is going to be our sort of what I call our reference floor. So like I said, it's 100 meters by 200 meters. So let's go ahead and set that scale. Right now it's 21 meters by 11 meters. Let's set that to 200 meters. We're going to set that to 100 meters. And so what we have right now is a city block in Chicago. And a city block in Chicago in this direction is 1/8 of a mile. So again, in the US, if you're working in miles, 8 of these is a mile. So we have our floor here, and then we have our reference area down here. That's going to be our city block. But just thinking about the block itself isn't that interesting. You often want a street and a parkway and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to add that stuff in. Now, our parkway, based on this document here, right? Here it is, and I did the math for you. The parkway is 4.11 meters, this chunk right here. So because we're thinking about a city block being 200 by 100, that includes the parkway. So we're going to get rid of the parkway width on this side here. So what we're going to do, and Unreal is very nice to us, it will do the subtraction for us. So I'm going to do 100, and then I'm just going to put minus 4.11. And I have removed the parkway from on this side, on one side of the block. If we wanted to work over here, which we're not going to do, we're going to work over here on the left, but if we wanted to work over here, we could subtract another 4.11 to account for the parkway on the right side, but this level's never going to get that big, so we're not going to worry about it for now. So, okay, so we are at 200 meters long, 95.89 meters wide, and half a meter thick. And again, this is just our reference. So let's actually call this, too slow clicks is going to let us rename. I'm going to call it floor reference 1. That way we can hold it in our head, right? We know it's not a floor, it's a floor reference. So we're going to now make our parkway. So let's go ahead and make our life easy and just duplicate, Command C, Command V, the floor reference. And what we're going to do is now make it the width of our parkway. And I said before, the width of our parkway is 4.11 meters. So we're just going to change this 95 to 4.11. Whoops, typo. 4.11. And we have it. So I'm going to drag it over. And oh, just a quick tip. If you want to like zoom in on this, just double click a thing in your outliner. Oh, it took me really far out. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll do another little trick. If you right click, you can say snap view to object, and that will bring you right in. Okay, so this is our parkway, and what's nice about snap view to object is it shows you like head on exactly what you got going on there. I'm just using the D key to like strafe right. Okay, and just to double check that we're in good shape. We are. Okay, this is our parkway. So we're going to call this parkway reference 1. And notice it just disappeared. It's because it shot down. This is automatically always sorted alphabetically. So because we started it with P, it's way down here. Parkway reference 1, and there it is. So we have parkway reference 1, we have floor reference 1. And now what we want to do is make our street reference. Actually, before we do that, we're going to end up with another parkway reference, right? Because there's on both sides of the street there is one. So let's just do Command C, Command V. We now have parkway reference 2. We'll use this later after we make our street, so we can just leave it here for now. Okay, so again in Chicago, two-way streets are usually 32 to 34 feet wide. Because we believe in bike lanes, we'll make ours 34 feet wide because that'll include the bike lane. And that is 10.36 meters, or 10.36 UUs, Unreal Units, curb to curb. And again, just to show why we came up with that, let's go here. So what we're doing is, again, curb to curb, which is right here, all the way to right here. So our curb to curb width is going to be 10.36 meters. So let's go ahead and duplicate this again. And instead of parkway reference 3, we're going to call this street reference 1. And we need to make, now that shot us down to S, right, street reference 1. And again, I said our street is going to be 10.36 meters wide. So we're going to change this 4.11 to 10.36 and hit enter. And now we need to drag it to the right. And see if that's lined up. Not quite. We've got a little hairline crack in there, don't we? There we go. Nope, we still got it in there. What's going on? Did I have it over here? I did. Wasn't lined up in the first place, I don't think. Let's see. Oh no, that's my other reference. See if I can just nudge this over. This is our other parkway reference. I'm just gonna move out of the way so I can see. There we go. Oh. And so now we have our street reference 1. This is going to be our street. This is our parkway where the sidewalks live. This is our other parkway, so we're going to move this parkway. I'm using the A key here to strafe right while holding down the right mouse button. And now, I'll zoom out so we can see everything. Go up a little bit. We have parkway reference 2 here, parkway reference 1 here. We have our street reference 1 here, and we have our giant floor reference here. So again, this is all going to be used to put stuff on top of, but it gives us a way to think about our level design. So now we need to make our second city block, and so the easiest way to do that, right, is now that we already have this floor reference 1, we're just going to do Command C, Command V. We have floor reference 2, and we are going to move it on over. And again, the point of all this is we're establishing our kind of base layer. So we know where to set everything without having to think about it again. I could zoom out and do this way easier, and maybe I will. Oh yeah, city blocks are big. Getting closer. Okay. Let's see how we did. Not too bad. We're close. Okay. So now we have this huge area, but we know now what we need to do. This is all of lot 2. Parkway, where the sidewalk's going to be, street, parkway, and our second city block. So we have 2 giant city blocks, plus a street, plus a sidewalk. So we're doing pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and make our parkways real. So we have our reference, and the reason we made our reference in the first place is we're going to make the actual thing. So the easiest thing to do for now is just do Command C, Command V, and pull it up. Oops, let me actually get close so I can take a look. Yep. Okay, and now this is no longer our reference. We're just going to call it Parkway 1. So now we have Parkway 1 and our reference. This way, also, if we delete Parkway 1 because we hate it, we have an easy way to make Parkway again down below it. Okay, so now we're going to make our second one. Nope, we're not there yet. Oh no, we are. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so here's a fun trick. If you don't already know this, in Unreal Engine, a way to duplicate something is to, is to hold the Option key down if you're on a Mac, or the, and just drag it up and you just duplicated it. Boom. You can still do Command C, Command V if you want. You can, I think, also do Command D to duplicate, but it's really useful to be able to just hold the Option key down and pull up, and you've made a duplicate. So, and it named it for us 3, and what we're going to call that again is Parkway 2. Okay, so here's our Parkway reference 2, here's our Parkway 2, here's our Parkway reference 1, and here's our Parkway 1. And here's our street. We have our parkways. Notice that our parkways are again are half a foot thick, um, or sorry, half a meter thick. So that's over a foot thick. But that's 19.69 inches, I think it is. So, but that's okay. We're going to use this to our advantage. Okay, so we have street reference 1 here. And we need to go ahead and make street 1. So again, I'm going to just duplicate it by holding my option key down and pulling up. And I'm going to call this street 1. And we have our street. Now, here's where people always make a mistake in level design. And I'll show you the mistake that they make. Let's go back to our document. Notice, right, the street lives below the curb by about 6 inches. So we step down off the curb, right? It's not, streets aren't flat. And in some places they are, like in Florida, they don't really use curbs because they have sand. Their state is largely made out of sand, so the roads just drain in the sand. But many places in most urban areas, there's a curb. So we need to have a step down or the curb height for our street. So right now we don't have that. We have a street that's completely flat, and that makes it look like cartoony. So, like I said, because streets are 6 inches lower than the surroundings around them, that is 0.15 meters lower. So what we want to do is go to street 1 and go to the transform box down here for street 1 and lower our street by so that it is down by 6 inches or 0.15 meters. So I'm going to do minus 0.15. Boom. That is our curb. So we just made our curb by lowering the Z of our street down 6 inches. Okay. So now's a good time to save your project in case you haven't. And let's go ahead and do build lighting only. It's going to build our lighting for us. We're getting our status down here. And look to see what happens. And you'll notice we got a little bit of lighting difference in our level now that we rebuilt our lighting. Okay, so what we need to do now is create our lots. And lots are where businesses, houses, etc. are placed in a city. In urban areas, lots are 25 feet by 125 feet. They're kind of quite narrow, but they're quite deep. That is 7.62 meters by 38.1 meters. And so we're going to go ahead and make a lot. And now to remember, 25 feet by 125 feet includes this parkway strip. So we're going to subtract the parkway strip from that. Okay, so to do that, let's just take a shape cube here from, again, starter content shapes. Drop our cube on here, and this is by no means our lot. It's way too small. And like I said, our lot is going to be 7.62 meters wide. And let's actually position ourselves like we would be a human standing in the street, just to kind of give ourselves a better sense here of what that feels like. So that's 7.62. Let's go ahead and pull it up roughly to the parkway area, and again 33.99 meters long. 33.99. Ah, yeah, and it shot towards us, so let's fix that. Oops. And it's also, I'm lining it up here with our parkway. It's also way too thick, so let's make it 0.5. So that is pretty solid. That is 7.62 meters wide, 33.99 meters deep, and half a meter thick. And this is going to be our first lot. Pretty cool. So let's call this shape cube lot 1. Okay, so we've got a pretty good starting place, but there's a couple things to know. So in the VR template, your player spawns right here. And do you see this little gray box right here? Now it's amber. That is our NavMeshBoundsVolume. Our NavMeshBoundsVolume is where our player can navigate. And we just made a much huger space. So if you were to build this VR experience right now, you couldn't leave this little box. So we need to make it much bigger. So let's go ahead, now that we've selected our NavMeshBoundsVolume, let's go ahead and make that scale much bigger. Let's make it, nope. Oh, I see, it's doubling. Now, here's a great point I wanted to make about scale, and this is a good example. Not everything in scale is set to 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. Your NavMeshBoundsVolume, for example, is a great example of that, right? This is way bigger than 1 meter, but its scale is 1 by 1 by 1. So we just have to kind of eyeball it till we get it right, which is why I'm screwing around with the numbers here. That's 2. Let's make it 6. Now that's really big, but let's see how that does. Oh yeah, not as bad as I was worried. Let's fly way up into the air so we can really get a better sense of it. We need to make it a little bit bigger than 6, but probably not 7. I'll make it 6.4. I'll make it 6.6. We can always make little adjustments later, but we're darn close there. So now we need to stretch our NavMeshBoundsVolume, and the y-axis are the green. Let's go ahead and make that 6. Nope, not quite big enough. Let's make it 8. Not quite big enough. Let's make it 9. Fly up a little bit to give ourselves a better aerial view. Not quite. Let's make it 10. That might be too big. It is. Let's make it 9.6. It's a little... we'll call that good. Okay, so we now have a NavMeshBoundsVolume that expands our whole area. Now here's a fun thing. So, there's a way to show this. So, NavMeshBoundsVolume, if you use the P key, you can show your NavMeshBoundsVolume. So I'm going to hit the P key, and you can see here, this right now is our only navigable space, including our original VR template area and our lot. And the reason for that is our NavMeshBoundsVolume is at the very top of our nav surface, right? So in the VR template, you have this area right here, and here you have the new tile that we first made. We have our parkway 1, we have our street, we have our parkway 2, and we have our lot. This is all navigable, but you'll notice it like just barely enough dips down into our street because our street is lower than our walking space. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our NavMeshBoundsVolume and we're going to lower it just a little bit. And because I have the P key on, notice now we could walk around this whole thing. And this is kind of useful for us right now because we might want to walk around in places where we don't have a lot defined. So now our NavMeshBoundsVolume will accommodate everything in here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the P key and turn our view off. And now we're back to what it looks like. So what I wanted to do there is just double check that our NavMesh bounds volume would accommodate our street, which is dipped down a little bit. And it looks like it did, but just to be safe, I moved it down a little bit. Okay, so speaking of navigating, our current player spawn spot is right here, right? This is our player start. Some people call this a player start capsule because it's shaped like a capsule. You'll notice if I pull it up, it says bad size right here. You can ignore that bad size. It's fine. I'm going to hit undo just to pop it back down on the floor. For this VR player, 000 for the player start needs to be right there on the floor. So that's why it's kind of sunk halfway down. Okay. Now we're going to be working a lot over here. So let's, to keep ourselves from not losing our minds, we're going to drag our player start over to here. And that will get us, whenever we decide to play our VR experience, right there on our new lot that we're working on. But there's one thing you'll notice, and you see how the blue arrow right now is pointed this way. That's because when we spawn, we're going to be pointed that direction. So we want to turn this blue arrow this direction so we can see our new lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a rotation to negative 90 degrees. And now that's going to point us that way. The reason I use negative 90, negative goes counterclockwise, like this. Positive 90 would go this way. So if we wanted to point this direction, we do positive 90. If we wanted this way, we do negative 90. Okay. That is all looking good. We have our player in the right place. Okay, so now we want to talk about building our building. And I already have a little floor plan built for us, so let me go ahead and open that up. If I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So this is our floor plan. I just did this in Keynote just to sketch it out so you could see it. And this is, might be like an architect's rendering that you would see. This is our street right here. We have this. This is 10.36 meters. This is our parkway, again, 4.11 meters. This is our lot, this whole chunk right here. I'm going to move it just so you can see it. And then this white bordered area is going to be our building. And this building is going to have, it's going to span the width of our lot. It's going to go all the way. It's going to go about 3/4 of the way to the back. So this is going to be sort of a backyardy junkyard area. And this is going to be the back of the building. And I put commercial doors are standard width. So I made a double door. Most restaurants, whatever you go into, often have 2 doors in the front that you can one to go in, one to go out. So I put a double door gap in here. And then I just put the same wall back here, the same gap, just to make it easy. Again, this the height of our lot, which is the width of our lot, in Unreal is 7.62 meters, so all that matches. We have our commercial door, which is 0.9, but we're going to double that to 1.83 because it's a double commercial door. Our length is 33.99. We did that, right? That's our lot length. And our building length is going to be 25.5 meters. So pretty cool. That is what we're going to be building. Okay, so let's go back down here. And maybe the first thing to do is do a little modeling in Unreal Engine. And to do that, we need to add a plugin to Unreal. Unreal does have modeling capabilities. It's in beta mode. There's been various attempts at modeling. Unreal 5.4.4 has pretty good modeling, but it is in a plugin. So we're going to go to Edit, Plugins. And if you type the word modeling, you're going to see 4 options. Hair modeling, we're not doing hair modeling. That's experimental anyway. Modeling tools editor mode is in beta. That's what we want. Motion design, and then you're going to see static mesh editor modeling mode. This is also in beta. We care about this second one here, modeling tools editor mode. So go ahead and check it. And it's telling you like, hey, by the way, this is in beta, so no guarantees. Are you sure you want to do this? The answer is yes. Now, what it says here is you must restart Unreal Editor for your changes to take effect. So do you want to restart now? The answer is yes. It says, hey, you got some stuff you need to save, so we're going to go ahead and save it. And we're going to restart Unreal. And we're back. And now we have a cool thing. We have a new mode up here. We've been in selection mode a lot of our life in level design. You spend a lot of time in selection mode, but now we have a modeling dropdown. So let's go ahead and select it. And we have some simple modeling tools here. Now this is not as cool as Blender or any other tools you might use to do fancy modeling, but it's pretty great for our purposes, and it's built in, so we don't have to do a bunch of importing and other stuff like that. Notice right here, we're in the Create tab. I'm going to call these tabs over here on the left. We're going to spend a lot of time in the Create tab, but we are going to get into perhaps into the Model tab, and we're going to definitely get into the UVs tab down here, and we'll talk about what that stuff is. We're in the Create tab. These are some simple pieces we can add, and if you click on box right here, you can just go ahead and it'll just drop you a box right into our map or our level, which is really great. Let's go ahead and add a box. And you'll notice this, I clicked on box and it's just now stuck to my mouse until I drop it in. So let's go ahead and stick it right here. Now things are going to look a little strange based on how you've typically seen Unreal Engine. Right now we have a sort of modeling gizmo, and a gizmo is a kind of all-in-one UI tool. It allows you to rotate things with these arcs. It allows you to scale the box with this sort of little box itself, little angle, and then you can translate or move objects with these lines. So you get to do transform, rotate, translate, rotate, and scale, or move, rotate, and scale, all in one with all-in-one gizmo, which is really cool. But it's a little fiddly if you're not used to using it. But the more you use it, the more you'll get used to it. Okay, so we have our box. We're going to go ahead and click accept, but we need to make some changes to it. Actually, no, let's delete it. Let's do it again. So we have our box, and we're going to drop it in. So here's what I wanted to show you, which is why I want to redo it. Notice this says 100 instead of 1. So we have width, depth, and height, all of 100. That is because when you're in modeling mode, you're in Unreal units or centimeters, not meters. So now you have to think when you're modeling, I'm in centimeters, not meters. Again, our wall width is going to be 7.62 meters, and that's 762 centimeters, 762. And you'll notice that's pointed the wrong direction, but that's okay. We'll turn it around. And then our depth is going to be the wall thickness. And the wall thickness is 6 inches, which is 0.15 meters. And then our height is going to be 3.048 meters, which is 304.8 centimeters. Okay, so now we can move this box around with our gizmo. Again, check it out, pretty cool. And we want to rotate on the z-axis just like we did before. And there it is. So let's go ahead and what's cool is like we're still in Unreal, so we can like fly around just like we would normally. That width is wrong, something is up. Haha, it bit me. So I did 0.15, and it's not 0.15 centimeters. That's extremely thin. It's 0.15 meters. So it's 15 centimeters. So yeah, always, it's hard to flip your brain. You're now working in centimeters instead of meters or Unreal units. So now we have our wall, and this is our standard wall thickness. It's not quite at the edge there. Now it is. I just moved it so it's exactly aligned right there. And again, we want to be on our lot, so we're going to go ahead and move it right here onto our lot. That way we're not blocking the sidewalk. And we have our first front wall. Now I think we can go ahead and click the accept button. Yeah. And the next thing we want to do, which is why we're in the modeling tool, we need to blow a hole in this wall where the door is going to be. And so I'm going to take a break and get a glass of water and come back, and we'll add our hole to our door. Okay, we're back. I'm hydrated. And we got to make our door for this wall, right? It's going to be a double door. So let's go ahead and add another box. And you'll notice when you add another box in the Unreal modeling tool, it makes the same shape, the same size as the one you just made, which is really great for rapid prototyping, but a little bit less useful for us right now. That's right. Go ahead and click in. So we've placed it, and we need to change the size. And so our standard commercial door is 36 inches wide. So our double door is going to be twice that, and that is going to be 1.83 meters, which means that is going to be 183 centimeters. 183. Our depth is going to be the same. It's the same thickness as our wall. Doors aren't really as thick as the wall. It would be like a bank vault door if it was that thick. But we're not really making an actual door. We're just going to make a hole in the wall. So we'll keep it the same thickness just to make our life easy. And then the height on a commercial door is 80 inches. So that is 203.2 centimeters. So we're going to leave it at that. And now we need to rotate it 90 degrees. And a good way to figure out if you rotated it that negative 90 degrees is you can look right here at this delta mode little block thing down here. And here we go. Again, the gizmo, you can push it back. And it should not disappear in there, which means it's all the way in there. But now one of the things we want to do is we need to align, I'm going to pull it up just a little bit, this block exactly with this one. And let's see. There's a couple ways to do that. None of them are easy. But let's see. So maybe one thing we can do, let's go ahead and hit, do I want to do this? No, let's try it. I'll hit accept. And one way to do it is to say this one is at negative 2280, 3500, and negative 10. So now let's look at this one, negative 2270. Let's see, 3500, negative 10, negative 10. Oh, they're actually, yeah, they're sucked up. There shouldn't be a negative 10. They should both be at 0. So they'll be right on the floor. Okay, and if all these three numbers are exactly the same because we're measuring from the center, they're going to be lined up. And notice this little jaggedy thing right here. This is sort of z-fighting that's happening. It's because we have two static mesh objects that are exactly lined up flush. And so it doesn't quite know what to do right here. So you can see it looking all broken up, but actually it's going to be fine. Okay, so we now have our door perfectly centered in our wall, and we have them both selected, and we're in the modeling mode. And what we want to do now is we want to go to model, and what we want to do is we want to do a Boolean, and a Boolean is a fancy word for saying I'm going to take one, and I'm going to take two objects, and I'm going to kind of do an either or on them. Either we want to keep one chunk or keep the other chunk, or use one to cut the other one with, or use one to cut one into pieces. These are called Boolean actions. And that's what we want to do. And what we want to do is we're going to do what's called a Boolean AB. So we're going to select our A. Our A is our wall, and our B is our door. And a Boolean AB, difference AB right here, says I'm going to take A and I'm going to cut out B into A. So we want difference AB. And let's see. I think if we accept, we should be okay. Let's see what it does. It's looking weird though, huh? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's looking weird because the floor is a weird color. So we just cut out our door using our door. And now we have a chunk that is a perfect wall with a door, double door hole in it. The next thing we need to do is we need to go into UVs, and we need to hit auto UV. UV has nothing to do with ultraviolet. We won't go into what UVs really are. A way to think about UVs is to think about if you took a paper doll and made a 3D doll out of it, the paper doll is the UV for that. It's the wrapper around the outside. But what we're going to do is click auto UV, and notice we get these really super cool, funky checkerboard color. That's kind of a standard UV image or kind of graphic. And we're going to hit accept. And what we did is we just created our UV for this. And you'll notice it's kind of like funky looking here. The grid is now, but that's okay for our purposes. It doesn't really matter that much. Okay, we have our front wall. But I think we're a little bit overhang. Yeah. Let's check it out. There we go. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't overhanging a little bit. Okay. That was hopefully not that scary. And we're looking pretty good. Okay. Let's see. What else do we want to do? What else do we want to do? What else do we want to do? Oh, let's build our lighting just to make sure everything's cool. Build lighting only. Make sure we don't get any errors. If you forget to do this UV step, you will get an error. And you can notice our UV map here looks a little strange. But I'd say for now, let's not worry about it too much. It's interesting that it looks like this in the back. You know what we'll do, just for fun? Why don't we rotate this 180 degrees, and that makes our front end look a little better. Okay. Now let's do an easy thing. We're just going to make a standard wall here on the right-hand side. And just for fun, let's go ahead and go back into Create, Box. I'm going to place it here. Again, this is the door shape we had before. So for our width, I think we want 225. Let's go look at our line drawing. We want, 25.5 meters, so we want 255 centimeters. Oh wait, math's hard. 25.5 meters, so we need to go over 2, so it's 2550. I'm missing a 0. I was like, this is too small. 2550. There we go. And we want our height. Our height should be 80. No, let me think. What is our height? Oh, I can check right here. Our height for this model. Okay, I'm just going to accept our height here is, oh, yeah, notice. Okay, so we made our model right, and now our scale is 111. Like I said before, you can't rely on scale to always be meters. This is, it's a 1-to-1-to-1 of the model we made. But I have it, I wrote it down somewhere. I'm looking at my Google Doc. Where is the height of our wall? Aha, 304.8. Cool. So let me go back into here. And actually, I'm just going to start over again. Okay, we're going to make our box. We're going to drop it in. And what we want it to be is 2,550 centimeters long, 15 centimeters thick, or that's 6 inches. And our height is going to be 304.8. Cool. And I'm just moving it over. It's being cantankerous. And if your grid is being too cranky, its step is too big, so let's go ahead and set this down to 1. That's a more smoother. That using a grid 10 is useful until you get in a situation like this where you don't want it to be like that. And I think we're off by just 1. There we go. Cool. And now let's take this same, we're going to hit, we got to do our UVs. Oh, let me hit accept. And then auto UV, accept. And then we're going to just do Command C, Command V. We're going to duplicate that, move it over, check my alignment. Cool. And now, for simplicity's sake, we're going to take our front door, duplicate it, and make it our back door. And again, we're just grayboxing, even though grayboxing is this word that really means like you're not making things in order to think about the details of what the thing looks like. You're making things to figure out what your dimensions need to be across your level. So then you can run around in it and kind of get this sense of like, does this feel right? Because there's no sense in doing a bunch of modeling if your scale and everything else is all out of whack. So this is sort of like doing a pencil drawing before you do your pen drawing or your painting. Okay, so we're looking pretty good there. And let's see, what do we want to do next? Maybe we're going to add... Maybe we're going to add a roof. Yeah, should we add a roof? Before we do that, though, let's talk about... Yeah, let's talk about jumping up on stuff. So let's go ahead and go back into our crate and do box and do this. And instead of using these wacky measurements here, we're going to do 100 by 100 by 100. And you might think to yourself, like, it would be cool to jump on that. And so let's go ahead and hit the P key. And the P, again, tells us our NavMesh. And there's a couple things to notice. Notice this cube has no NavMesh on the top of it. So I'm going to, And there's a couple reasons why, probably. And one of the reasons why is because our current NavMesh, actually, I'm just going to hit accept right here so we can get out of here. Our current NavMesh bounds volume is only floor height. Right? Like if you look here, whoops, this is the line of our NavMesh bounds volume right here. So it is not high enough to capture the top of this cube. So we need to take our NavMesh bounds volume and let's go ahead and just bump the scale up to, let's go crazy, 20. And now we have a huge bounds volume. So if we did a basement floor, stuff would be okay there. If we go up really high, a couple floors will be okay. And let's actually move the bounds volume up a little bit to give ourselves enough room for a basement, but also plenty of room for height. And notice when I let the bounds volume go, it sort of repaints the bounds volume, which is cool. But we still have a problem. We still don't have a green value on top of this cube. So let's go ahead and make a new box. Set it here, and we're going to make it 150 by 150 by 150. We're going to say accept. And notice now we have a little green cube on top of our NavMesh bounds volume. And this is because our NavMesh does not consider this object to be big enough for us to jump on. So we won't go down that rabbit hole too far. But so we'll just make our boxes bigger. But this is a thing to know. If your object is too small and your NavMesh thinks a person can't really jump up on there, you're not going to get your NavMesh painted on top. And this is why showing the painted values of the painting the values of the NavMesh on top of your level is a really good idea, because you will go nuts trying to figure out why is it not working. Let me turn this off and let me go back to, I got auto UV that cube, and I think I forgot to do the same for this one. Hit accept. Now I've got that one selected. It doesn't really matter because we're going to get rid of that one anyway. Okay, we're looking good. Now we're going to exit modeling mode. We're going to go to selection mode. We're going to get rid of that little one. It's too small. Now let's go ahead and duplicate this one. So we've got 2. And let's bring those into our backyard space over here. The reason why is we're going to use them to jump on our roof on the outside. Cool. Let me take a look over here. Let's see what these look like. Let's make them a little bit. We'll rotate them some kind of random amount just to make them look a little bit thrown around. And let's go ahead and save what we've got. Let's go ahead and build our lighting only. Getting our build status down here. Cool. And now let's make our ceiling. So to make our ceiling, let's go ahead and go. We'll go kick it old school. We're going to go into our starter content shapes, take our shape cube, throw it in there, and bring it up and over. Oh, pretty darn close. Cool. And then what we want to do is we want to scale it out. Now, if we look at our values, we want it to be 7.62 meters wide. And that is going to be our red x-axis, 7.62. Cool. And we want our length to be 25.5. And we're going to run into a fun issue here, I have a feeling. And that is on our y-axis. 25.5. And before we get too carried away, we want to make it just 6 inches thick. Do we want it to be 6 inches thick? That feels a little unbelievable. Let's make it, let's make it 0.15. That's 6 inches thick. Sorry, I was thinking the wrong math. Okay. So we're lined up back here, but are we going to be okay? Or are we going to be a little short? No, we're a little short. And the reason why we're a little short is because when I calculated our wall length, I didn't accommodate for the thickness of our front and back walls. If you've ever done woodworking, this always bites woodworkers. They forget to calculate, the width of their wood, and then their numbers are all screwed up. So let's fix that by making it 25.5 plus 0.15 plus 0.15, and I think that should be right, if my math is correct. It's not. I think I'm off. I'm over by 0.15, so let me subtract minus 0.15. We're overhanging here. We're short here, so I think that'll be okay. Yep, looking good. Did I? I did. I should have that at 0.15. Let's see. 0.1. Whoops. Okay, so now let's use the P key to check our NavMeshBoundsVolume again. And we can jump on here, we can jump on here, we can jump on here, we can jump on here. So we should be good. And I'm going to turn our NavMesh off. Let's go ahead and do build lighting. Yeah, we've got some nice kind of gloomy vibe in here, which is nice. Cool. Okay. And while we're at it, let's take some of this stuff that we don't care about anymore. Get rid of it. We get rid of this no teleport option. And we're going to get rid of our VR spectator. And I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's do build lighting again. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and build our VR experience and we'll check it out. Platforms, Android, package project. And I have a directory already named Quest 2 inside my Urban Streetscape project. So I'm going to go ahead and do open. And we'll let this build and we'll see what we get. All right, this is pretty good. We have some things to tweak. We have some lightings to adjust for sure. And we're just getting started, but not bad. You probably learned a lot, hopefully, and we'll keep going in the next video. Thanks.